I am not a big fan of professional wrestling, but look at this. I had a smile on my face the entire time. I mean, come on.
The portrait of an American life, young ambition, early promise, a steady rise through the organization.
That was the film critic Roger Ebert discussing Goodfellas, but he may as well have been talking about The Iron Claw, a film that follows a real-life pro wrestling dynasty, a father and his sons who are pretty much unquestionably the most famous family in professional wrestling.
Greatest family in the history of wrestling!
The movie starts off like a sports movie, and it has the bones of something like Raging Bull, punctuating personal drama with increasing passion and violence in the ring. But as Zac Efron's Kevin Von Erich points out, pro wrestling is not a sport. It's a performance, one rewarded not just on merit, but that it factor that draws us to any performer, like an actor or musician. In Texas in the 80s, the it factor primarily consisted of having a bad haircut. The film primarily follows Kevin's story, the second oldest and the first of 6 sons to reach adulthood. He's played in a surprisingly dramatic turn by teen heartthrob turned science experiment Zac Efron. All 4 brothers depicted in the film eventually become more or less professional wrestlers. They have wildly high ambitions, inspired by or forced onto them by their father. At one point, all 4 of them are expected to become the world champion. Exasperating their efforts is a family curse.
Ever since I was a child, people said my family was cursed. Mom tried to protect us with God. Pop tried to protect us with wrestling. He said if we were the toughest, the strongest, nothing could ever hurt us.
Which lurks under all of the tragedy that befalls the Von Erichs throughout the film. And there is an awful lot of tragedy. If you've heard anything about this movie at all, you know that it is punishingly sad. Pro wrestling is no stranger to premature deaths, but this film in particular is so sad that 2 out of 6 brothers are omitted because it would have been too unrealistic. This is the rare Wikipedia article that is sadder than the film whose story it's telling. You start to believe the family when they evoke the family curse myth. But it doesn't take long to put a face on the tragedy in the form of Dad, Fritz Von Erich. Former pro wrestler turned promoter, the black and white prologue features him violently attacking an opponent in the wrestling ring. It's only after he leaves the stadium and isn't arrested for manslaughter that we realize it was all part of an act, and not a Butch from Pulp Fiction style take no prisoners deathmatch. It's that classic movie arc where a bad parent forces their ambitions onto their kids. How far are they willing to go to please their father, who never forgave the powers that be for not making him world champion? To him, the curse is his family's constant failures to achieve success in the ring. To the audience, it's him. Like so many overachieving families in the movie and real life, Fritz organizes his sons into a state of constant competition, pitting them against each other, defining their worth by how much they please him. He shamelessly ranks his kids in order of favorites.
Now, we all know Carrie's my favorite, then Kev, then David, then Mike. But the rankings can always change.
Where the film succeeds is walking that strange line between artifice and reality that pro wrestling does. On one hand, we see all the stage punches and kicks missing their target or held back. But as the family falls apart, their grief comes out in the wrestling. Fritz is one of those perpetual bad guy characters in pro wrestling. That fits with his real-life persona, in the movie and in reality. Eventually, Kevin tears apart an opponent who leaves the ring and invites him out for a beer. For other wrestlers, the ring is a performance. For the Von Erichs, each brawl is a life or death struggle against their hopes and dreams, to become world champion, to honor their brothers, to live up to an impossible ideal set up by a father who doesn't love them more than he loves success. The film has some weaknesses. Lily James is sorely underused as a fan who Kevin falls in love with and marries. It toys with the idea of how religion has shaped the boys' worldview. I would have liked more about how the religious atmosphere of their insular upbringing shaped their family dynamic. Seems like a gold mine for thematic material that they just didn't use. But there's a lot of interesting stuff here too, how different sons variously fight against the path set out for them by working towards becoming an Olympic athlete, or becoming a musician, or letting a woman who loves them take away their shelteredness. But the boys can be one-dimensional. Their personalities are centered around brotherhood and family, which can make them seem a little samey. What we do get to make us believe in their brotherhood, like a line dance at a wedding, is effective, moving, and rare. At one point, the film devolves into a scene of magical realism, and whether or not it works for you hinges on whether or not you believe in the brothers. Sometimes it feels like the film is relying too much on the audience bringing their own family baggage to relate to the brothers. The film starts out like any other sports film, and you expect the same beats that you always see. You get the training montages and the triumphant moments, but those third act victories or the lessons learned in defeat never come. The emotional climax of the film is aiming for something more like one of the great tragedies, as a son chooses to free himself from the weight of his parents' failures. The moment when a child consciously decides to be better than their parents, it's an elemental struggle. The story of the Von Erich boys isn't one about wrestlers, it's about family, it's about brothers. And in their case, their bond is preternaturally strong, formed through hardship, not just the bonds of family. The phrase blood is thicker than water comes to mind, but it doesn't tell the right story. The brothers are connected in spite of the family they were born to, not because of it. But just as the Von Erichs fail, parents failing to parent, the children failing to overcome their parents, many fail to quote that verse fully. The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. In the case of Ironclaw, that might be true.